I just thought, well, hey, like, this is not what I got in this for. I wanted to make music and express myself, and then somehow I got caught up in this crazy cycle of exploitation.
Welcome to the Germany Experience, the podcast about life in Germany as seen through the eyes of outsiders. I'm your host, Sean. And to subscribe to the show, sign up for my newsletter, or find links to my social media accounts, visit thegermanyexperience.de/subscribe. You'll get all of that there. This episode's guest is Sarah Jane Scott, an American Schlager singer. We'll get to her in a bit, but first, this week I read a news story that upskirting has been declared illegal in Germany. Now, in case you don't know what upskirting is, this is where men film women without their knowledge, either up their dresses or skirts or down their cleavage. I guess it happens on escalators or on staircases where men are below and they get a good shot or whatever. I don't know, but it's a thing that happens. Now, two things struck me when I read this news story. Firstly, the word used in Germany is also upskirting, so that's interesting. It seems they've adopted that word. And secondly, how is this only illegal now? I just couldn't believe it. According to a Deutsche Welle news report that I found from last year, which I've linked in the show notes, paragraph 184I of the German Penal Code, which focuses on sexual harassment, is relatively new. So this code, right, is, and I'll quote from that article in deutschewelle.com, this particular part of the penal code only comes into effect when direct contact is made with an intimate part of a person's body. This doesn't happen during upskirting, so perpetrators are only accountable for violating a general rule of conduct, and they get fined. So they can get caught taking photographs down women's cleavage or up their skirts, but they just get a fine, and not because of the actual crime that's being committed, but because they're breaking a general rule of conduct. What? The amendment followed a separate one in 2014 that found people who photograph or distribute images showing intimate body parts are liable for criminal prosecution, but only if the images were taken in private spaces, such as a toilet. It doesn't, however, apply to photographs taken in other public spaces. This seems ridiculous. It seems ridiculous. So when I read that news report, I couldn't believe that it was only being made illegal now. But I wrote it off to me just not knowing the German culture. I thought that maybe this is something all Germans have known for a long time and that this is a great battle everyone was fighting. Make upskirting illegal or something like that. But the next morning when I woke up, upskirting was trending on German Twitter, and it turns out Germans were just as surprised as me. So I decided to ask a few Germans that I know if they knew that it wasn't illegal until this week or until pretty soon. And none of them knew. None of them knew. Nina, a German who was a guest back in February on the podcast, wrote this. No, I did not know. I was sure this was already legal and was at least fined. Yeah, it was at least fined. It is surprising that it took so long, to be honest. Yes, Nina, I agree. It's surprising. Then here's a colleague of mine, Patrick.
What? Upskirting wasn't illegal until now? In Germany, we have laws for everything, like how close you can park to a crossing on the street. And upskirting is not illegal? I didn't know that, and I didn't even know the term upskirting, to be honest, but that's not part of the discussion here.
Patrick makes a good point here. This in a country built on rules and laws, upskirting couldn't be legally punished until now. So it does seem somewhat incongruous. That's a good point that Patrick made here. Then I also got a message from a friend of mine, Timur, and this is what he had to say.
When you asked me about the surprising fact that upskirting wasn't illegal before, I was surprised too in the first place. But then I started a discussion with my girlfriend, who's also German, and she told me that until 1997, raping your wife wasn't illegal in Germany. Yeah, that's also a bit surprising. So the fact that upskirting wasn't illegal before might not be as big a surprise as you might think in the first place.
So I fact-checked Timo's girlfriend's claim, and she's right. Only in 1997 was marital rape made illegal. 1997. That's not that long ago. And sometimes I forget that living in a country that is progressive in so many ways, there's still a long way to go with many things. All right, on to my guest this week. As promised, it's Sarah Jane Scott. And she's from the USA and has found success here in Germany as a Schlager singer. Now, in case you don't know what Schlager is, it's based on German folk music, and it's a lot of it is party music, but a lot of it is also power ballads, and it's difficult to describe. And luckily, Sarah Jane goes into some details in our talk. But here's the definition from Wikipedia: Schlager is a style of European popular music that is generally a catchy instrumental accompaniment to vocal pieces of pop music with simple, happy-go-lucky, and often sentimental lyrics. I would love to play you a few clips of that, but I would get wrapped over the knuckles for copyright infringement, so I'm not going to do that on this podcast, but I will put some links to some very, very famous Schlager songs in the show notes. So just how did an American become a German Schlager singer? Sarah Jane explains her path to Germany and her Schlager success, and then she talks about what it's like to be a Schlager singer, and more recently, about how she is currently evaluating her next steps. We discuss how the record label-artist relationship is not healthy and about systemic misogyny and exploitation in the music industry. It's a fascinating discussion, and here's Sarah Jane Scott. So, Sarah Jane Scott, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
And you are the first Schlager singer that I've had on this podcast. So this is a first.
That's great. For some reason, this does not surprise me.
So before we get into Schlagermusik and your career in Schlagermusik and where you're at the moment, maybe you can give your background, because I'll tell you the other thing. This is a podcast episode for firsts, because you're also, I think, the first guest that has a Wikipedia page. And it's a German Wikipedia page, and on it gives a bit of your history. And what's very clear from the Wikipedia article is that you had a big love of music right from when you were young. So maybe give me your background and growing up and your love for music.
Yeah, sure. So I am originally from a very small town in Pennsylvania in the US. It's called Honesdale, Pennsylvania, but I was born in Scranton. Scranton is a very famous small town known for being the city in which the American office, is set. So this is where I'm from. I always loved music. I think from I was a baby and I already knew that I wanted to sing, at least 3. It was very clear to me that and to my parents that I loved singing. I loved to perform. I loved to sing for people. I loved to sing myself to sleep. I was just always singing. And that was the plan. And my whole life, I've sang in choirs. I've performed in musicals. Yeah, I mean, it was really the only option for me growing up. And I went to a performing arts high school also in Pennsylvania. And, being from a small town, it's also like a very interesting experience. Then eventually I went to Berklee College of Music. I moved to Boston at 18 and studied at Berklee, and I have a bachelor's degree in music. And that was a really, really great experience at Berklee as well.
Where do you think your love of music comes from? Were your parents musical? Is that something that they promoted to you when you were young?
Yeah, so my father is a hobby musician, and he is a really beautiful singer and plays various instruments. And he had like a little studio at home growing up with a microphone and various instruments. And I would just kind of go in there and play. My dad would like set up the PA system for me so that I could like actually sing into a microphone and, hit the drums and strum the guitars. Yeah. And that was like my playground growing up.
And you said that was the only option when you were growing up. There was never any time where you wanted to be a doctor or you wanted to be a journalist or something like that. It was always music or some kind of music.
Yeah, unbelievably. Yeah, it was that or dance, because I did ballet from ages 3 to 20, but then I thought, well, I think music. I have a better chance of succeeding in music than in dance somehow. I think dance is, I mean, they're both very difficult fields to be to want to be in, but somehow the chances in music, and I also just felt that music pulled me in more than dance did.
Yeah. So what was your, when you went to Berkeley, and what did you have in mind for when you graduated? You knew you wanted to do something with music, but I'm guessing that probably at that point on your mind wasn't being a Schlager singer in Germany.
No, it wasn't. So basically, so when I had entered into Berkeley, I had a classical background at this performing arts high school that I studied at. It was mainly we were studying opera and classical, and so this was my background. But I was rebelling from my background, and I wanted to go sing jazz at Berkeley. This was like a big deal for all of my teachers in my high school, because they thought that I would ruin my voice going to Berkeley, going to the
Really?
pop school. Yeah. They were.
What
all
was the
shocked.
other option then, if not Berkeley?
To be honest with you, like Berkeley was the school I wanted to go to, because it is known to being like the college for studying contemporary music.
Yeah, I mean it's internationally renowned.
Yeah. And I started singing jazz at Berkeley, and I really, really enjoyed it. At a certain point, I'd say my second year there, I started to get a little bit tired of jazz, and I wanted to move on. So then I was exploring other options, perhaps going more into a pop direction or country. And I kind of I've always been someone who enjoys singing many different genres of music.
Right.
I could never really put my finger on one genre and say, I am this kind of singer. I love so many different styles of music, and enjoy singing so many different styles of music. So, but I have a classical and a jazz background. And I still to this day enjoy singing both of these genres of music.
So then how does it happen that you go from graduating from Berkeley, not having Germany? I assume Germany wasn't even on your mind at that point, right? It was you maybe were thinking of the States, or were you thinking of Europe?
Oh, I mean, I was small town girl, never been anywhere before. Mm-hmm. I didn't have a passport at this time. When I graduated from Berkeley, I was a bit lost. I mean, I thought now I have this degree in music. I have a bachelor's degree in music. What do I do with this now?
How does this translate into the real world?
Yeah, exactly. And I was thinking maybe I go to New York, maybe try out for some Broadway stuff, or I don't know. All my friends were going to Los Angeles, although Los Angeles hadn't really appealed to me so much. And so, I was a bit lost. I didn't know where to go. And I had a friend in Berlin. And so I went to go visit this friend in Berlin pretty much directly after I graduated. I had a little bit of money saved up, and I wanted to see Europe. I got my passport, and then I went over to Europe, visited my friend from Berkeley. And then one thing led to another, and this friend became my boyfriend.
Oh.
And then I got a job working as a teacher, and then I started learning the language, and I just decided, okay, well, I guess I'm going to stay in Germany for a year. And then it went to 2 years and 3 years, and here it's 10 years later. So,
what was that like in the beginning, being a small town girl, as you describe it, landing up in Europe? And what were your first impressions of Germany and Europe?
It was pretty shocking. I definitely had culture shock for a good 4 years.
I think I still have culture shock, Sarah Jane.
Yeah, I do too. Let's be honest. 10 years in, it never really goes away.
No.
But no. So it was different. It was also very exciting, because I had never really seen anything outside of America before. I had never experienced a different culture, a different language. And I was fascinated by everything around me, the people, how different everything was. I mean, we're still in the West, but Germany is so different than the US. Just the way that the people act, the way the language, the food, it's so different. But I really loved it. I really loved just learning a new culture. I think it was a really, really great gift that I gave myself by coming here.
Okay, so you landed up in Germany. So what was the bridge from there? You obviously started looking around for musical opportunities, I should imagine.
Yes, this is true. So I was first a music and dance teacher at an English-speaking school here in Berlin for about 4 years. And then on the side, I was constantly playing shows here in Berlin, but also, outside of Berlin in other cities in Germany. And in
Jazz shows or what
2013,
kind of shows?
yeah, jazz, mainly jazz. So I didn't speak the language when I came here, and I needed to find a way how to speak the language. So I thought, I'm a musician. What better way than to listen to German music and learn German this way? So I Googled German music, and I found Schlager. And I've always had I've always enjoyed music from the 50s and 60s. I guess this also goes with jazz. This is also the era of jazz. Yeah. But anyway, so I found some German Schlagers from the 50s and 60s. And I thought, this is fascinating. And I started listening to these songs and playing them on my ukulele and learning the text phonetically, singing the German without understanding it. And this is how I started learning German. Anyway, so I was playing all of these shows. And then in 2013, I played my first show where I was speaking German on stage. And then I had realized that I really enjoyed this. It was like a challenge. I was speaking a language I was just beginning to learn, but it was it was a challenge, and it was interesting. I could play with the language, not being a mother tongue speaker of the language. There was funny things that I could do with it on stage. Yeah. And then this is what kind of gave me the inspiration to, hey, why don't I try this more? This is fun. I can learn a language and start this career. And that's how it started.
And I think I saw somewhere, I can't remember where I saw it, either in an interview with you or I read it somewhere, that you said that also in Berkeley was something that you did was sing songs in foreign languages that you didn't always understand, right?
Yeah, I did that. In high school, having a background in classical music, we were constantly singing songs in every language. Singing lots of Bach and various, and we were singing Italian and so this was not that I didn't have really a grasp for the German language, but this is also when you're a singer and you sing in this context, it's normal to sing in languages that you don't understand.
Yeah. So you were listening to Schlager. You found that you liked Schlager. What was it that drew you towards Schlager, other than, like you said, it was the language, but also the melodies or the party aspect of it? What was it that was intriguing for you?
Yeah, in the beginning, I was really charmed by the early Schlager. So the Schlager from the 50s and 60s, right when Schlager started becoming a thing after the war. One reason why it was a good way for me to learn the language is also because the lyrics are quite simple. It's straightforward. And it was very fun.
Yeah. But what is it that makes Schlager melodies so unique? Because when you hear a Schlager melody, it just, straight away you're listening to Schlager music. It's just, even if it's very modern sounding.
Yeah, like I said, what's a traditional Schlager melody? Da 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 da. So something like this, right? So it's also very rhythmic in the sense that so there's always a lot of clapping in Schlager audiences yes, love to clap. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, exactly. Yeah. So it's and so a lot of times the melodies go along with this kind of rhythmic, very straightforward beat, straightforward melodies. Right. That's one thing that I think is quite charming about Schlager, that it's just with the melody, with the lyrics, it's just straight to the point.
It is.
It's just straight to the point.
It is, but it's catchy. Yeah. It's also that's what makes it incredibly catchy. So I texted you when we first got in touch. I listened to some of your songs in our house, and I got one of your songs stuck in my mind literally for 3 or 4 days after I heard it. That's the I Love You, I'll Tell You in a Song, I think it is the title of it, from your latest album. and it just wouldn't go. And in fact, my daughter started singing it when we were outside in the garden. It was like, oh my God, my daughter is singing a Sarah Jane Scott song. And then it was a daily request at breakfast that I had to play Sarah Jane Scott. So it's very, very catchy and sticks with you. And I think that's also a unique thing of Schlager for me as well, that it sticks with you.
Yeah, it's nice. It's just straight to the point, and 3 minutes of
fun,
of happiness.
Yeah, happiness and fun. Yeah.
Oh yes, happiness and fun.
I very definitely associate my experience with Schlager with things like the Oktoberfest, or when you go to a Volksfest, like every town has a Kirwa or that. That's my association with it. I go to those things and I know, okay, tonight I'm going to be dancing to Schlager or going to hear it on the thing, and I love it. It's great. It's perfect for those kinds of occasions.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. The Schlager that I have sung with my 3 albums, it's not so this traditional party Schlager.
Mm-hmm.
Mine is maybe a little bit more country influenced. I also sing many more ballads. I don't do party Schlager really. I do more kind of like a melodic country-esque Schlager.
I can definitely hear the country influences in your music. So let's talk about your style, actually. So Sarah Jane Scott as a Schlager artist, your style is quite interesting because like you said, you've got this a little more relaxed, not exactly the party Schlager, but you also sing, at least on your last album, a lot of English in the Schlager music.
Yeah, so I started doing that on my 3rd album.
Okay. Yeah.
I would say my first album and my 3rd album are quite country influenced. What's also really fun for me, also that, so when I sing Schlager, I do have a bit of an accent because I can't properly pronounce my German R's. So I pronounce the R's in the German language quite strong, like an American does. Yeah. And so this leaves also a lot of room for me to play with the words, and it kind of like winking, and it makes sometimes people laugh. So for instance, I have a song called Was war los gestern Nacht? What happened last night? And there's this line that's like, du musst ein richtiger Zauberer sein. You must be a magician. And this line, du musst ein richtiger Zauberer sein, always makes people laugh because it just sounds, I think, ridiculous in my accent. But it's funny because I can play with it, and I like playing with the German language. Also, like I said, in my 3rd album, there's a lot of English, playing with this Danglish element, because this is also I have a lot of friends who speak both English and German, and because I live in Berlin, and this is how I speak with the people around me. We speak in a mix of German and English, and that's just fun for me to kind of play with the 2 languages. It's kind of like an inside joke or something. I don't know. Yeah,
and I guess it's kind of unique as well. I shouldn't imagine that there's anyone doing it now. I think I read somewhere that Peggy Marsh was an artist that did something similar in the 50s or the 60s. I'm not sure, but
yeah. So I was inspired by Peggy March and Connie Francis. These are 2 Americans who sang German Schlagers. I actually they were some of the first Schlager artists that I actually found when I started looking for Schlager music. So Connie Francis was actually quite successful in America in the 1950s. She sang I don't know if you know the songs like Stupid Cupid or Lipstick on Your Collar. Yes. Yeah, she had a great career in Schlager music as well.
Right.
I was inspired by these 2 women.
Yeah. Is there anyone doing it now other than you, that kind of style?
The mixing the German and the English?
Mixing the German and the English and singing with I guess an American accent?
No, I'm the only American currently. I mean, there are, like you said, there's Howard Carpendale. Yeah. There's Howie. He's been around for a really long time. There's a Swedish girl who sings Schlager. Right. Her name is Julia Lindholm. There's Schlager has a lot of international artists, I have to say.
Really? Yeah, that's interesting. So some of the big names in Schlager are I mean, the ones that I know of are like Helene Fischer, I guess, is one of the biggest at the moment.
Yes, Helene is. Oh, I mean, I think she is the biggest Schlager singer of all time, and I think she probably always will be. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. No one does what Helene Fischer does. She sells out arenas.
Right.
She is the biggest. I think she's the most successful act in Europe.
Wow, Helene Fischer.
Yeah, she is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's unbelievable. So she's one of the biggest Schlager singers. There's also Andrea Berg. And then Roland Kaiser, Udo Jürgens, Howard Carbondale. Who else? I mean, there's many. Jürgen Dreves. I mean, there's so many. There's so many of them.
You did a Christmas song with someone named, was it Heino? Heino?
I did a Christmas song with Heino. Yeah.
These are the random facts I learn about people when I'm just looking at them before an interview.
So I hope that someone in your audience knows. I'm sure there's people in your audience who know who Heino is. So interesting guy. Yeah. We sang a Christmas song together. That was fun.
Yeah. Did you actually record in the studio together? Did you meet him?
I did. I went to his home studio.
Okay.
And so Heino is kind of like this cult singer. He's been around, I think, since the 60s. Yeah. And he has a very deep voice, and he has this blonde hair and always wears sunglasses. And
got a very distinct look.
Very distinct look, very distinct voice. He was very nice, and he told me to call him Grandpa.
That's a little awkward. Yeah, but it's very cool. Very cool. I will put a link to. Is there a video for that song?
There is a video for that song.
Okay, I'm definitely putting a link for that in the show notes, so people must go and have a look and click on that.
Great.
Very cool. So when it comes to your songs, do you write the music? You obviously, I guess you write the lyrics, but what about the music? Are you also writing the music for the songs?
So I wrote most of my third album. This was really my first and second album. I unfortunately didn't get to write so much. But for my third album, I wrote quite a bit of it. And also, my third album is my most personal, also because I wrote most of it myself. And I told lots of stories about my childhood and also what it's like being a foreigner in Germany. Yeah, there's a song on my album called Hungry Heart that is about this feeling of wanting to travel and see the world and never stopping. So, and of course, my German is good, but to write lyrics, I do write with other people.
Yeah. So maybe we can talk a bit about your career as a Schlager singer. So we were talking about how you ended up in Germany and how you first started being intrigued by Schlager. But what was the step that led you to? I mean, you've achieved some kind of success in Schlager in Germany, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was on tour with Florian Silbereisen, the most prominent television moderator in Germany. He also sings and has a band, but I went on a 3-month-long tour with him. And I've also been on many television shows. And I was also on tour with this band called Santiano in Germany. That's not a Schlager band. They do more of they are like seamen. They sing sea shanties.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's quite fun. So, I mean, I've released 3 albums. I was signed to Sony and then Universal, and got to travel all over. I've seen most of Germany. I've been in every small corner of Germany, the smallest of smallest towns, the middle of nowhere, and also the cities. And really, feel very lucky to have gotten to see a lot of Europe and to travel and film music videos, and have had a lot of fun times.
What's a tour look like? So, I mean, is it really that picture that everyone has in their minds that you get on a tour bus and you head to a whole bunch of different cities and you don't see home for months on end?
Yeah, I have to say, so this one tour that I did, this 3-month-long tour, this was pretty intense because we were playing shows every day, and we would sometimes have to drive up to 6 hours in a bus.
Wow.
And so I had so much fun. It was really the time of my life on this tour because I got to perform in big arenas in front of so many people, and it was really just a dream come true. Yeah. But this is the thing, is that after these shows, you have adrenaline and you can't fall asleep. And so you stay up until 4 a.m. Hanging out with everyone at the bar, and then you have to wake up again at 9 to hop on the bus to drive. Okay. And then you don't reach the next city until maybe 4 or 5 p.m. And then the show starts at 8. And then it's just this every day. And it's just I didn't sleep pretty much for 3 months, and I was totally burnt out afterwards.
Really? But, so you came off there and you were just enough now for a while. Just no.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, after that, then I had to I released an album and then had to promote this album. I mean, it was really so much fun, and but it's definitely my health definitely declined after
Yeah.
this tour, and I had to take a bit of a break and relax a little bit. But it's so fun. It's really fun. Also because you get close to the people you're with very quickly
Yeah.
because you're with the same people every day on stage and also the crew behind the stage.
Yeah. Become
And
like
it's
a family, I guess, like a small
yeah,
family.
it's really nice. And so then also when the tour is over, they say you go into a black hole after a
Mhm.
big tour because you're not around all of these people anymore. And yeah, you have to then find a way to get back into normal everyday life.
Yeah. But it couldn't have been like that, these big tours and so on, right from the beginning. Or was it that you just kind of jumped into that level of success?
No, so I started in 2013, and then I had my first big television show in 2016. I was on, it was so Florian Silbereisen's große Schlagerfest,
Okay.
and this show had 6 million viewers.
Wow.
Yeah, this was my first television show, and then from there, that's how it started. And then so basically, my career has consisted of lots of promotion tours, traveling around, going to various radio stations, performing concerts. This is what the job of a Schlager
Yeah.
singer entails: interviews, yeah, and lots of shows all the time. Oh, and don't forget these Autogrammstunden, these autograph
Yes.
hours. These are also
Signing
very
autographs.
important in the Schlager world. This is very important. Doing these autograph hours.
What is that like? Do you just sign them, or do you have little chats with everyone? What's expected of you?
Yeah, I think first of all, I love music, and I love how music makes me feel. I love how singing makes me feel, and I love how other people's music makes me feel. And so it's a really nice way to connect to people,
Mm.
music. And so, I guess it's really nice just to meet a lot of people. I mean, I have to say, I have also changed a lot in my career, and I mean, we can also talk about that, how this has affected me, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and how my view on all of this has changed. In the beginning, it was really really fun for me, and then somehow I started doing a little bit more self reflection and figured out, hey, well, maybe there's more to life than this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah.
interesting because that's kind of the fantasy that everyone has when they're going in, right? When becoming a musician, people when they're playing in their garages, that's what they're wanting. They want those big
Yeah.
tours. They want the signing the autographs. They want chatting to the fans. So you said that was that was really cool for you in the beginning. How long did it take before you had that period of self-reflection that you're talking about?
I mean, I would say let's see. So I mean, I feel first of all, I just want to say I feel really, really lucky that I could achieve some of my childhood
Yeah.
dreams,
Yeah.
performing in front of 20,000 people and, being under the lights and getting to sing and share my songs
And
and
having
meet.
fans.
Yeah, and traveling and seeing
Yeah.
parts of the world that I never thought that I would be able to. I never dreamed of that this would happen. But then, at a certain point, I started just reflecting a little bit. Maybe I don't know. So my first big television show was 2016, and then I'd say a shift started to really happen maybe about 2 years ago in 2018, when I just realized that maybe this record label artist dynamic is not necessarily a healthy one, and I was feeling like I was being objectified. I was
Yeah.
being objectified by my record label, and
Right.
I was told what to do, what to say, what to wear, how to act, and this was just eating away at my soul.
Mhm.
And then I just thought, well, hey, this is not what I got in this for. I wanted to make music and express myself, and then somehow I got caught up in this crazy cycle of exploitation.
Where are you in that cycle now? Is that something that you put behind you? Were you able to move past into a new phase of your career?
Yeah, so that's currently what I'm doing. I mean, I have to say, I'm still reflecting on everything. I think it's really, really important for people to be entertained, whether it be whatever kind of music that is. And objectification and exploitation doesn't just happen in Schlager. It happens in every kind of genre of music.
I was going to say that, yeah.
Yeah, and just like this dynamic, and I'm not talking like specifically about like Schlager music. I'm talking about like the music business in general. This relationship between the record label and an artist is not necessarily a healthy one. Like, for instance, when I first started like going around meeting record executives to possibly get signed to a record label, this was like 2013. I had met a record executive that was explaining to me like how the Schlager audiences saw the two most successful female artists. And like, he was saying like, the one artist, well, she likes to have sex in the bed, and the other artist, she likes to have sex on the washing machine. And so this was like my first, yeah, I know. And so, and I was just being so naive, and I didn't at the time really understand like just how misogynistic this was, how bad this was. And then it only like got worse from there. That, you know, just being told what to say, what to do, what to wear. And I mean, now I have gotten out of this system, out of this negative pattern, but it's not so easy.
And what about the fans? Is there an expectation from the fans that you be a certain way? I guess it's kind of a big feedback loop, isn't it? So the record companies are putting out what the fans want. The fans want it because they're being sold it, I guess, and then it just becomes this big loop. But what is there pressure from the fans, or is there some kind of viewpoint of the fans?
So fans are really, really important in Schlager. I mean, I think I have to say, like, I experience a lot of beautiful, I like moving fans. The Schlager fans that I had were very kind and sweet and very warm, and I received a lot of love, and I feel very grateful for that. However, I think anyone in this kind of position of fame or being in the public eye, it's kind of a negative pattern, because no matter what, your fans will always see you in the way that they want to see you. Like, how could they possibly know who you are?
Yeah.
You know, and I think this is also kind of, if you're not careful, if you're in this position of being in the public eye and you're not careful, this can really mess with your head. This can, in one way or the other, I think it's not necessarily like a healthy dynamic.
Right. And do you think this is similar to the way that people, or let's say fans and record companies, I guess, is there a difference that you can see between how society deals with fame in Germany versus in USA?
I mean, it's pretty much the same, I would say.
Yeah.
I think our society as a whole values fame like way too much. I don't know, you know, you this is like something it's become such a big part of our society. Like, and I think, I mean, not that I ever was like on the level of like Taylor Swift or Ed Sheeran, or, I mean, I don't know what this is like, but I have a small taste of it. And it's not all that it's cracked up to be. It's not, it's like I said, I'm so happy that I could have my dream and do what I wanted to do. But it's, you know, I think this dynamic of like looking up to celebrities is also not necessarily a healthy one, or this idea of role models, or, you know, of even like, especially like with women, you know, we are always told that we need to be like role models for the young girls, when I think this is also just kind of like this is also not a good narrative for anyone to have, because celebrities are also just human beings with real thoughts and emotions, and they don't know better than any of us.
Yeah. But it seems to me that there's some inherent need for us to put people on a pedestal, because that seems to be what we do in many areas, not just show business, but in every. So there must be some kind of instinctual thing that we do that, and it's just the way that the marketing machine and celebrities work. It's just it amplifies that to a level way beyond what's normal, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think for me, what was just very difficult was being a product,
Yeah.
being marketed as a product. That was just really not good for my soul, not
Yeah.
good for who I for who I want to be or who I
Mm,
am, you know.
no.
I don't think that's necessarily good for anyone, because then you get in this vicious cycle of needing to please people, needing to maybe compromise parts of yourself. I mean, or maybe there are celebrities out there who can balance their private life and their image and,
Yeah.
say, okay, well, this is my job and this is this image of me, but really this is how I am. And then
Yeah.
maybe this is a healthy way to try and tackle it, although I was not really able to do this.
I guess that there are celebrities who can do that, and there are people who can do that as well in general. But when it goes against your core beliefs, and like you were talking about, being a role model to other women, younger girls, maybe, and then you're being, as you said, exploited and made to be a certain way, where that must have been extremely difficult for you to say that you will go out there and do that, because it's really something that's going against your core beliefs and philosophies. And I suppose, as you, from what it sounds like, is that was a slower evolution towards that point where you were saying, no, this is going against what my core philosophies are.
Yeah, and so when I first started, doing this job, being in the public eye, being on television and doing all of this, I was a bit naive, and perhaps I didn't quite understand the system, and I thought that this is what I had to do, unfortunately. But I remember, for instance, like when or also another story from the beginning of my career, I was told by the people around me in my team, like the female fans had to think that I was their friend and that I wouldn't steal their boyfriend. And then the male fans had to feel like they wanted to have sex with me. Isn't this awful? This is really, really awful. Yeah. And so then it also plays into this thing, like being a woman in the public eye, and you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if you're on one end of the spectrum or the other end of the spectrum. You're just wrong.
Yeah.
That's just how it is.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you've got some more freedom now, more recently. So after 2018, what led to that more freedom? Are you still with the record label, or have you got a different understanding with the record label? And what's the shift looking like for you at the moment?
Yeah. So basically, I ended my relationship with Universal just very recently. I haven't even really let that cat out of the bag yet. I haven't told very many people about this.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have just decided to step back a little bit and to reflect, and I will continue to make music. I'm not sure, I want to take a little bit of a break and reflect a little bit, and then we'll see where it goes. So right now I would like to focus on maybe telling my story and expressing this, so maybe people understand a little bit better, why in the music business this is a really nasty cycle that maybe people aren't necessarily aware of. For instance, I know there's a narrative in Germany right now. Lots of women in the music business behind the scenes are speaking out, saying, hey, we need to have more women in higher positions of power at the record labels, more women producing music, more women, behind the scenes at the television shows. And I think this is really, really great. Yeah. I think this needs to happen. Yeah. But I think also what people need to be aware of is also, in a lot of industries in the world, but in the music business also, there's a systemic problem here. Yes, we need women to be in the higher positions of power, but what about this record label artist dynamic? I think this is also very, very detrimental to not only the artists, but also the fans that are looking up to these artists.
Yes.
Because what happens when this artist that we love, this female artist that we love, when she's just being a puppet from a man at a higher position at a record label,
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I don't know. I think this is something that I would like to start a narrative. I would like that people start talking about this, because yes, it's great if we have more women in higher positions, but let's try and change the system. Let's not repeat these negative patterns.
And maybe change the expectations of what a female artist looks like and is basically as well. I think that's a huge thing that has to happen. Otherwise, it's just a cycle that continues. Girls grow up with the Taylor Swifts and whoever else of the world, and they just have this image of, okay, that's what I need to be like. That's how I need to be, and then it just continues going. And in the end, they're not seeing the real Sarah Jane Scott, or they're not seeing the real Taylor Swift. They're seeing some kind of marketing image that's put before them.
Yeah, I mean, and like one thing we also can't forget is that like we also tend to blame I don't know, for instance, like if you think of like Britney Spears, right?
Yeah.
And we now know like what happened there.
Yeah.
She was just like kind of a puppet. She had a lot of high-powered execs behind this. She was an idea. But at the time, like everybody was kind of shaming her for what she was doing.
It was people. It was almost like bullying. It was just a really, really harsh backlash at her personally.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is also very, very bad and very dangerous because she was doing what the record executives were telling her to do, but then all of this negative energy was then put into that she was bad, that she was wrong, that and we have to stop this shaming. We have to stop this shaming. We have to stop this. This is really not good.
Yeah, I agree. Are you worried about some kind of backlash from fans that you've had or whatever with whatever the next phase you have?
I have to say, I think I've already kind of, I don't want to say like alienated my fans, but I think like some fans are kind of like fed up with me because I stopped, like I decided that I didn't really want to do any more fan meetups, and I just decided that maybe like the public eye wasn't for me. And so I think I disappointed a lot of fans, but I think that is okay because I mean, it's my life, and I don't want to just like live my life for other people. No. I want to be happy, and of course I can I will always have music and I will always continue to make music, but I don't want to do it while being objectified or exploited.
Yeah. And I think a small example of that came in an interview that I saw with you, where you were talking about cutting your hair. Your hair was longer before and you'd cut your hair. And you said that there was some negative backlash about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, that we have this idea that women can only be feminine if they have long hair. Or, I mean, this is like one instance. I mean, there's lots of these silly things that people say or think that are just inherently in us and like innately. There's a lot of like things in society that are innately misogynistic that no one questions. But anyway, so I think like, yeah, people didn't necessarily like it when I cut my hair, but I did it because I wanted to. And that was also kind of like the first move for me, to say like, well, I'm doing this for myself and for no one else. And that was, I was able to, break free from something. Yeah.
Yeah. And that one of the things you said in that interview is that I am not my hair. And I think that's a great point to make.
Yeah, I'm not my hair. I'm not anything. I am not one single thing. I mean, I think this is also something that we could all perhaps benefit from. Like women and men, like we are not the way that we look. We are not our hair. We are not our clothes. We're not necessarily like, I mean, we're many things. We're what we do. We're what we think. We're the meaningful relationships that we have with the people around us, thoughts and ideas. I mean, these are the things that we should be trying to cultivate, in my opinion. I think this is what I've been, upon my self-reflection, this is what I've come down to.
Yeah. So you're unsure about what the next step is. You're taking a bit of a break now. Does that mean break from touring? Or are there contractual obligations that you have to get through with the record label, or what's the short term?
So I still have some shows and some television and that kind of stuff. But I'm just taking a bit of a break at the moment.
Right. What other projects are you involved with at the moment?
So I have begun working with some women's organizations here in Berlin, focusing on getting women in leadership positions here in Germany and in Europe, and also like fighting for equal pay. And I mean, of course, it goes. I have to see what the future brings, but it seems like I would I'd like to go down an activist path. We'll see. I mean, in my music, perhaps also, we'll see what happens. I'm pretty much open to whatever comes at me.
It's kind of an exciting place to be, because you've had an epiphany. It sounds like you've had an epiphany. You've had realizations, and you know where you stand with certain issues, and you know what you will and won't do. And now you've got a lot of different opportunities and ways forward. That must be pretty liberating, right?
Yeah, it feels really nice. I mean, I think, I don't necessarily like regret anything that I've done. I really, really enjoyed singing Schlager.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed everything that I experienced, and I feel very lucky. But I also needed to go through that in order to find this part of myself.
Yeah.
And I feel pretty good. I feel pretty darn good, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the next phase of my life brings. And I'm open and I'm ready to learn.
Great. Sarah Jane Scott, where can people find you if they want to find you? Where would you?
Yeah, so I guess the best place to find me is on Instagram. I'm Sarah Jane Scott .music, MUSIK, the German spelling of music.
Right. Okay, so I'll put that in the show notes as well. And I wish you luck with everything going forward, Sarah Jane. It was so great to speak to you, and thank you for taking the time and coming to talk on the podcast.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much to Sarah Jane Scott for being so candid and open and giving us a little glimpse into what goes on behind the scenes in the music industry. That's it for this week. Remember, go to thegermanyexperience.de/subscribe for all the links you need for the show. Music in this episode, theme song by my band 10 Cent Janes, additional music by Ryan Anderson. Until the end, this is the end. Auf Wiederhören.